EDC Bill 2016. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was Senator Nelson EFIONG to move the motion for the bill to be read the second.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am Senator Nelson EFIONG. I represent the people of AKWAIBOMSOUTH, Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished senators, thank you for granting me the opportunity to lead the debate on this very important bill for an act to establish the much-needed Maritime University of Nigeria, oron. Mr. President and distinguished senators will recall that this bill was read the first time in this hallowed chamber on Thursday, 23rd June 2016. Essentially, Mr. President, this bill seeks the upgrade of the present Maritime Academy of Nigeria, oron, to a degree-awarding institution. Mr. President, distinguished senators, in 1977, through Executive Act number 172, the federal military government established Nautical College of Nigeria, oron, with the primary motive of building the much-needed capacity for the growing maritime industry. Prior to this time, Mr. President, most of the nation's merchant navy officers were trained mainly in the United Kingdom, India, and Ghana, among other places, at a very high cost to the government. Following the promulgation of Decree 16 of 1988, the Nautical College, oron, which was officially opened in 1979, had its name changed to Maritime Academy of Nigeria, MAN, oron, with limited assistance from the International Maritime Organization, IMO, and United Nations Development Program, UNDP. The Academy was designed as an integrated institution, basically for the education and training of shipboard officers, ratings, and shore-based management personnel in line with the requirements of International Maritime Organization and the National Board for Technical Education. In addition to training the nation's merchant navy officers, Maritime Academy of Nigeria was also expected to facilitate the certification of Nigerian seafarers in line with the provisions of Merchant Shipping Act 1962 and the IMO Convention on Standards, Certification and Watchkeeping, SCWC 1995, for seafarers. The federal government's expectation of the Academy, as stated in its mission statement and enunciated in its service charter, is to provide the merchant navy, the maritime industry, and allied industries qualitative education and training with up-to-date technology, meet national and international standards, and satisfy end users' expectations. Mr. President, statistics show that as at the end of 2010 academic session, Maritime Academy of Nigeria had trained about 4,300 merchant navy officers, among others, for both shipboard and shore-based operations. Maritime experts say this is definitely a drop in a mighty ocean, considering Nigeria's over 170 million population with the attendant growth in sea trade in the country. This figure is grossly inadequate for the local maritime industry, as further study shows that over 50,000 job spaces exist. This also compares with the Republic of Philippines, with a population of less than 100 million, but exports over 300,000 seafarers annually, representing 30% of world seafarers' exports, from which she earns over $5 billion annually. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the idea of elevating Maritime Academy of Nigeria to a degree-awarding institution has been in the pipeline for over 10 years now. In October 28, 2008, the then Minister of State for Transport, Prince John Okechukwu Emeka, said the federal government will soon upgrade the academy to a degree-awarding institution. His predecessor in office, Alhaji Yusuf Suleiman, who finally secured Federal Executive Council approval for the transformation, had noted that the primary purpose was to put the products of the academy at par with graduates of other institutions in the international labor market. At its present status, Mr. President, as an academy or a college, the highest certificate issued by Maritime Academy of Nigeria is National Diploma, while its peers, both in Africa and other parts of the world, issue degree certificates. And so Nigerian cadets who possess ND certificates are rated and paid lower than their peers, even though the training is the same, as it must conform to IMO requirements. Apart from this, Mr. President, the elevation of the Maritime Academy of Ghana owned by 5 West African countries, to Regional Maritime University, Tema, Ghana, also became the catalyst for the government to actualize the dream of establishing the Maritime University of Nigeria, oron. It was in line with the plan to transform the academy that the government took steps to formalize its funding. The National Assembly, in passing the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA Act, which merged the defunct National Maritime Authority, NIMA, Joint Maritime Labour Industrial Council, JOMALIC, and the Government Inspectorate of Shipping, GIS, made provision for statutory allocation for the funding of the academy. For instance, relevant sections of the Act ceded 5% of NIMASA's annual budget as a statutory funding for the academy. This in addition to other grants and internally generated revenue. Mr. President, following IMO's approval for the transmission of the academy to university status, the federal government in 2013 ordered NIMASA to release the sum of 2 billion naira intervention fund to the academy for it to commence arrangements for the actual transformation. In addition to this, Mr. President, the former governor of AKWAIBOM State, His Excellency Senator Dr. AKWAIBOMSOUTH, had donated a large parcel of land to the academy and paid full compensation to the owners as part of the conditions given by IMO for the upgrade. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, from the foregoing, it can be seen that the academy is ready for upgrading to a university awarding institution. The purpose of this bill, therefore, is to give a legal instrument for the upgrade to become a reality. And I therefore call on my colleagues to once again show their usual spirit of patriotism by supporting this bill so that Maritime University of Nigeria, oron, will be established. Mr. President, as I have said, this is an upgrade. As I speak, the land donated by the Senate Minority Leader, former governor, has already been cleaned up. The site plan, including the mapping out of the road network, has been completed, followed by the landscaping of the new parcel of land. As I said, Mr. President, the present Maritime Academy does not undertake Class 2 or Class 1 certificates in maritime. What that means is that if you want to be a master mariner, that is a captain of a ship, you cannot use the diploma that they are offering now. Or if you want to be a chief engineer in a ship, you cannot. You can only go abroad. And with the intention of this government to conserve the marginal foreign exchange, I think it would be the right thing for this academy to be upgraded. I'd also want to say that the financial implication in doing the upgrade will be less on government as there is existing structure on ground. So I want to call on all my colleagues to please support this bill, and I therefore move that it should be read the second time. Thank you, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, because of the fact that Nigerian seafarers were shortchanged, immediately the one in Ghana, owned by 5 countries, was upgraded to university status. The training in oron is far better than what is done in Ghana. But the result is that those people with certificates from oron cannot compete with degrees from Ghana, and yet they are better trained than them. And so people could not become captains and all that. They ended up becoming junior officers in ships across the maritime waters. And as said earlier, inside the lead debate, you will notice that we have trained so far over 4,400, and of course, the President had actually upgraded it, and the Federal Executive Council had actually approved it before the last dispensation. And I had also, as governor of the state at that time, as I was then, given them more than enough land for the expansion. And funding had been put in place by law, which made it mandatory for 5% of the master funds to go to that academy. I mean, it's a Nigerian academy. I believe it will continue to assist Nigeria, because I've been there many times with ministers of transport when they are doing their passing out parades, and the graduates are across Nigeria, from Sokoto, Borno, everywhere, those who are interested in maritime activities and becoming seafarers. But unfortunately, we were not able to produce captains until they stayed 10 to 15 years in various ships on the waterways because of the ND, the national diploma they were receiving. So I also want to thank the Senate, because in the last motion earlier brought by my brother, the Oracle of the Senate, Senator General Manager, when he was proposing the conclusion of the Okerekogo Maritime Academy, the Senate actually observed that what happened to the one that was established way back in 1977, the Maritime Academy of Oron, and I gave information at that time that yes, indeed, it was upgraded, yes, indeed, it was approved, but it would be better to formalize it in a bill. So, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, while supporting this bill to be read a second time, I also want to say that it is a step in the right direction. And I want to also thank my brother for the in-depth research he did, that with a population of 170 million, one university, or one maritime university would not be enough for Nigerians. We need to engage our children. 170 million Nigerians, we need to engage our children. Some places with less than 10 million population, Singapore and others, have up to 7, 8 universities. So it's something that I believe will not even need much discussion, so that we don't waste the time of the Senate. We should formalize this bill and go ahead to give legal framework for the University of Oron. I thank you, and I urge my colleagues to support it as I do.
In very specific terms, subject matter being discussed in this debate has something to do with executive functions of governance. Indeed, in the statutes, you would not see a prerequisite of National Assembly legislation for establishment of universities. The procedure, in fact, is that the National Universities Commission looks through applications and ensures that the terms and conditions are met and gives license for universities to operate. What we do at the National Assembly is to put the enabling law to make that action legal and conclusive. And from what we have heard regarding this academy at Oron, it is indeed very clear that all the functions and the procedures relating to establishment of a university or conversion of an institution into a university has been done. For this reason, it is well in place for this hallowed chamber to put paid on this matter by reading this bill a second time. Furthermore, Mr. President, regarding the issue of university education in Nigeria, there cannot be a limitation to how much opportunities are made available to Nigerians, because we are completely underprovided in the area of university education. That is why hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of our youth, our children, are always applying for university spaces that are not there. The only worry is that policies keep on somersaulting, and it becomes very difficult sometimes to understand why things should be made that way. Quite recently, we heard about a policy that all federal universities should cease offering programs for diplomas. And if that takes place, it means while you're trying to solve one problem of expanding education, you are also using the same hand to close opportunities on the other side. I believe that for technical programs like maritime engineering, you do need training at all levels in such a way that you are providing for the leadership in the maritime industry, you're providing for middle-term operators, and even the low-laying servicemen. Nigeria has one of the most expansive creek arrangements in this country. And you cannot say that we'll continue to use all those old methods of movement, transportation, or even industry within the creeks, which is mainly fishing. Today, from records, the coast of Nigeria is known to be one of the few areas in the world where fish live and die without being caught, because nobody has come to catch them and they die out of old age. Whereas we are importing tons upon tons of fish from other parts of the world. This is simply because our waters are not being properly exploited, and because the maritime industry is not well developed. But we have a lot of people who are in some way traditionally aware of what they can do, but they don't have the technology to be able to match what the other people are doing. We must stop the Chinese from coming to fish in our waters. We must develop our own capacity, and it is only the existence of maritime schools like this that you can build up the knowledge that you require to exploit these oceans properly. Mr. President, I support this bill wholeheartedly, and I think that it is not a duplication whatsoever. 2 maritime universities are good for Nigeria. Thank you.
Is anybody against this?
Mr. President, I support education for our children from primary to tertiary level. And I also supported the establishment of the university in Okeran Koko. My concern with this particular one, Mr. President, is that Maritime University is a specialized university. We require so many teachers or lecturers. We require special equipment. We require so many facilities to establish a world-class maritime university. In my own opinion, Mr. President, phasing is very important. Instead of establishing 2 universities, one in AKWAIBOM, one in Delta, I believe that it is important for us to see how we can establish a university, one university, in either of the states, so that we can have the best for the university, establish a world-class university, instead of spreading ourselves too thin. Of course, we have many other challenges, even in education. We have just established so many universities recently, and a lot of requirements for those universities are yet to be fulfilled. So my opinion and my suggestion, Mr. President, is to see how we can concentrate in this country to establish a maritime university, one university for now in the Niger Delta. Thank you, Mr. President.
2016, second reading.
A bill for an act to establish the Maritime University of Nigeria oron and other matters connected there. 2016, second reading taken. This bill is referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institution and Third Fund. Report back within 4 weeks. The Chairman of the Committee on Tertiary Institution and Third Fund, you have these 2 bills before you. You've heard the debate today, and I think the committee has a lot of work to do, and with the public hearing to be able to chart the right direction, what is the best way to address. There are very good reasons, need for us to have more maritime universities, and also, of course, we also look at the cost and sustainability of it. But I think that these are the contributions that will help in guiding the work of the committee. Leader of the Senate.